Hey guys, it's Kevin again with
Allie.
And we're here to review something a little bit more dramatic than some of the other stuff we've reviewed together, and that is for a limited series on Netflix that both of us have become pretty obsessed with, and that is Maid. Alright, so Maid, if you guys don't know what this is about, basically we center on this character, Alex. She has recently gone through a very traumatic and severe relationship full of emotional abuse and things like that, and she wants to do what she can to finally flee from this guy, and one day she just decides, I've had it. She gets up, she wants to flee from him, and does what she can to try to provide this life for her daughter, but realizes there's going to be a lot of challenges in the way, especially when she starts to have to rely on her family, which also kind of dives deeper into her troubled childhood and whatnot, and we start to see just how hard it is for her to really break away from this lifestyle. So, Maid, I was already very excited for this show. I mean, I don't want to say I'm excited for because it's a very, dramatic show, and it's a very heavy one and things like that, but it's one that it was definitely on my radar for a while, knowing that, Margaret Qualley and Nick Robinson and Andie McDowell and people like that were, at the helm. I was very excited, or, in it. I was very excited to see, how this was really going to be. Netflix miniseries tend to usually go really well, and this seemed like one that could be very successful. But you actually gave me that extra boost to watch it, because I know you especially were a big fan. But what were your expectations before you watched the show, or did you know about it before you ended up watching?
Before I started watching, I heard bits and pieces about it.
Yeah.
I started watching the first watch was with my current roommate and my best friend. So yeah, Emily.
Yes.
We watched.
Shout out to her. She's she owns the apartment we're in.
Yes. Yeah, we watched it together, and we binged it pretty quickly. We watched a few episodes, and then it took us at least a week or so. And then, obviously, I rewatched most of it with him.
Yeah, so I started watching it on the plane to here, actually, and I have to say, this is easily one of the most riveting limited series that I have seen pretty much all year. This is just one of those shows where immediately you start watching it, you got so swept up in what was going on. Now, we will say right now, this is a very challenging series. It definitely is, but it's a very moving and honestly very heartfelt one that I think is really going to touch a lot of people, and is really going to stick with a lot of people in a pretty big way.
It's literally, one of my new favorite shows.
Yes.
Right as I first watched it the first time, I became, obsessed. And
yeah,
it's just, the writing and everything is just...
Yeah, well...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we'll get more into it, but this is definitely a show that you should definitely be on your radar for sure. But we are just getting into it right now, starting off with the cast here. Which, let's of course start off by talking about someone that I am so happy is finally the lead for a show in Margaret Qualley. This is an actress that you guys know. When it comes to Leftovers alum, I get really excited whenever they have a new project and things like that. But how can I not? I mean, that is just such an amazing cast of actors. And to finally see a show that lets Margaret Qualley really just channel her inner emotions and really just show how great of an actress that she can be. I am just so grateful for that, because she is fucking incredible in the show. Alex as a character is someone who has gone through a lot, but she also, you can tell, has been very affected by her traumatic past, whether it be the relationship that she's in, whether it's the difficulty that she's had with her parents and things like that. You can see that it's had a clear impact on her, but she also has this optimism and can-do attitude that is just irresistible to not get behind, and I think Qualley represents all of that very well. The emotions, the sadness that Alex is going through, the hopelessness that she feels, but also when she tries to stay positive, when she has those moments where she is feeling determined, when she has those moments where it feels like things are going her way, Qualley really didn't miss a beat here, and I was so impressed by her performance. I already knew that she was talented, but I'm just really happy that she finally has a project where people are recognizing her talent, and she now, I believe, is nominated for a Golden Globe, which is very deserving. Just incredible performance all around. I love what she ended up doing here.
I thought she was phenomenal in this
movie?
in this miniseries.
Yes.
I I haven't seen her in, like, a ton of things. Obviously, like, I haven't finished The Leftovers. I only watched the first season.
You need to get on that.
I know. I'm on season 2.
She's at the point where it gets, like, ugh.
Yeah.
You guys know.
So far, from what I've seen her, she's amazing in that. But this role as Alex, I was, like, in awe. She was so amazing, and she looks like she was really, like, enjoying playing this, and
but also really impacted, I think, too.
Yeah, she was impacted, she was affected, but also, like, had a genuine connection with this role.
A lot of raw emotion, I would say.
Oh, yeah, lots of raw emotion, and she's, like, just, it was just, like, so emotional watching her. But she was so good.
Yeah, and it's a very subtle performance at points, too, which I really did appreciate. It really just added to the authenticity of this character, and I think she did a really incredible job with that. Someone I really want to talk about as well is Nick Robinson here. This is a very challenging role that he's playing, because he is, of course, playing the boyfriend that she's trying to get as far away from, and he could play it as a very, like, over-the-top and, like, unrealistically evil performance, but he is very layered. He brings a lot of complexity to this character, to the point where at times you're a bit conflicted with how you're supposed to feel when it comes to Sean. Allie can tell you, there were points where I was even like, I don't really know if I think Sean's that bad of a guy, and it's because of Robinson's performance. It's because he's showing that this is a character that has a lot of potential. There's so many things that he could be doing. He could be a good guy, but unfortunately he just has these inner demons that keep catching up to him, and Robinson channels that so well here. Never for a second does it feel like this is just like a straight up monster and there's like nothing, he doesn't feel like a real person. No, this feels like a real guy who is going through his own struggles and is going about it completely the wrong way, but at the same time, like, he is going through his own struggles, and I think Robinson does a really great job with that here. I think the way he portrayed this character, it shows why people are so susceptible when it comes to, staying in abusive relationships and things like that. I think he added to that very well. I really loved Robinson's performance here.
Oh yeah, me too. Like, he was supposed to be just the emotionally abusive boyfriend or ex-boyfriend.
And he could have been really, like I said, over the top with it.
Oh yeah, he could have been.
Yeah.
But like,
he's not.
He actually proves that he's like more than that. Like, he's actually trying to like work on himself and like prove that he's actually like a good guy. He just has a lot of problems. Or went through a lot of problems. But, like, he's a very strong character.
Yeah, definitely, like, and Robinson does a great job with that.
He was amazing with the role of Sean.
Yeah, I was honestly really impressed by his performance, because I kind of expected him to be like the weak, not the weak link necessarily, but like someone who wasn't really given a lot to do because he just has to be like abusive and like interface the entire time. But he really dives deep into that character, and I really did appreciate that. Someone we have to talk about, obviously, is Andie McDowell in this show. Oh my god, I mean, what a firecracker of a performance this really is. The second that she comes on, this is a character you're just kind of like, what the hell is up with her? Why is she acting this way? And that's something that McDowell does a really good job with, is that she shows that this is a character that at first is incredibly obnoxious, and you're just kind of like, lady, what's your deal? But as the show goes on, we really start to peel back the layers of this character and see that she is just as hurt as, Qualley's character, and I really loved what she ended up doing here. She had some very challenging material, I think, to work with to really make that character work, but she really does an incredible job. I think especially, you'll agree with me on this, I think what really heightens that role is that Margaret Qualley and Andie McDowell are mother and daughter in real life, and it creates this really interesting dynamic between the two that adds, again, this warmth to their scenes together. It feels so much more genuine in that way whenever they're...
Margaret Qualley looks exactly like the younger version of her mom.
Yeah, it works so well, and I really loved what they ended up doing with... I really love what McDowell ended up doing with this character. Again, this is another character that could have come across as just, like, really obnoxious, but McDowell did a really great job of showing the hurt and the pain that I think that Paula as a character has been through to really justify, her behavior and why she acts this way. And I think besides Qualley, she is absolutely the standout in this show.
Oh, she was great. such a firecracker, like you said.
Yes.
She's so unfiltered.
Oh, yeah.
So she has, like, a lot of funny one-liners, but then a lot of, like, crazy things and scary things.
Yeah.
Like, her character is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But I love her.
She's so unpredictable.
Oh, yeah. Like, you never know what she's gonna do next.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
Like, she did so great. Like, her connection with this role was just so... like, was literally out of this world, and it was just so good.
Yeah, I really loved what she ended up doing here. All the performances in the show are just all incredible across the board. Anika Noni Rose gives a really strong performance, I think. I really liked what she ended up doing here. Billy Burke is great for what he has, but some of the smaller roles as well I thought were even really strong. Like, B.J. Harrison plays this woman, Denise, who runs the shelter that Alex is living in, and I think she was a huge stand out throughout the show. I thought she worked very well as like sort of like a mentor towards Alex and someone that really wants to help her out. I really enjoyed her performance here.
Oh yeah, she was so great.
Yeah, and then another big standout for me was Amy Carrero, this character Danielle. Not in this show a lot, but my God, what a memorable character that she ends up playing.
Oh my God, even if she wasn't in it much, she just had like an impact on
definitely.
On her character and like an impact on like all of the viewers.
Yeah, definitely. I think overall everyone was just amazing in terms of the performances here. We do want to highlight as well, very young, but Riley Neva Whittet, who plays Maddie, she's only like 3 years old, and she gives a really strong performance here. Yes, this is a child actress, and yes, she's not given the biggest role, but, you know, I think we see throughout the show, she really does a good job of representing just, I think, the sign of hope. Like, Maddie really is like the heart and soul of this show. She's someone that, you know, you watch her and you want things to go well just because of how much you feel so attached to her. And I think while I think it's pretty clear, you know, there wasn't a ton of acting she was asked to do, I definitely got the sense very early on that, like, I think she could be a really strong actress as she gets older, and I really liked her performance here. I know you're obsessed with her as a child, you know, as a little girl, so.
Not obsessed, but.
You know what I mean.
I just think she's, like, the cutest thing.
Yeah.
And, like, Alex and Sean's love for her is just like the most wholesome thing in the world, and she's just so adorable. And I think when she grows up, she's going to be an amazing actress even more.
Yeah, I agree.
But for like a little girl, she was so good, and like she's definitely going to like go do many things when she grows up.
She's going to go places for sure.
So cute.
All right, now let's get into the directing for the show, which, again, this is where we get to, I think, some of the more challenging stuff. This is a very hard show to adapt. This is based on a memoir, and you have to try to cover this show as delicately as possible. You're dealing with some very sensitive subject matter here, and I think for the most part, they did a really good job with that. This is a show that, yes, can be very hard to watch, but like I said, it has this tremendous amount of hope and optimism throughout it, which really gets you to latch onto the show. I think while this is going to be a hard watch for a lot of people, I think what really latches you onto is that the show doesn't want to dwell on it too much. Yes, the show goes to those dark places. Yes, it really does hone in on the things that Alex has been through, the things her mom has been through, but again, it has this sense of hope throughout it, and that's something I really did appreciate overall in the show. I think they did a really good job with that, even having some levity in there. There is some comedy throughout the show, and it all just works so well. It does a really good job of, I think, not isolating the viewer, you know, to the point where I've seen some people call this show misery porn, and I would very much disagree with that. This is not really that at all. Like, yes, this is a show where characters are very sad. Yes, there's a lot of trauma going on with these characters, but there is a significant amount of hope in this show. There is a significant amount of happiness in the show. Yeah, it might not be as grand as some of the other emotions, but you still definitely do feel it, and I think that's something that they directed very well here.
Oh yeah, the directing was just incredible.
Yeah.
And they the director and everything did a fantastic job connecting the emotion, the trauma, the comedy, like the love and everything into one. Like everything really just blends together very well, and the show became one of my new favorites. I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And shout out to the writers.
Yeah,
and,
definitely. Well,
directors.
let's get to the writing. The writing for this show, I think, is very strong overall.
Yes.
And honestly, really did impress me as it goes on because, it seems like a pretty simplistic story where you have this woman fleeing from an abusive relationship, going to a homeless shelter, trying to start afresh. It seems like, you know how that's going to play out. But what I think this show does a really good job with is showing just how complicated that is for Alex. Alex has a lot of things she wants to accomplish. She wants to be a writer. She wants to provide this great life for her daughter. But through almost every aspect of her life, someone has been in control of her. She doesn't have a lot of agency on her own. And what I liked about her as a character is that while she has this optimism, she also is doing what she can to try to get that agency back, even if it's so hard for her to do that. She doesn't even really see at first what Sean did as straight up emotional abuse. She doesn't see it as that because people have told her throughout her life and continue to support his behavior in that way. And I think overall was a really strong arc for her as a character. I really loved what they ended up doing with her. I think that where she went as a character made sense narratively, but it's the way they got her there I wasn't really expecting. And that's something I really did appreciate. I think Alex as a character is someone that a lot of people are going to latch onto, even if you haven't been, at least I hope you haven't been an abusive relationship like this. I think we can latch on to the fact that we all have these expectations of what we want to do, but it's when we eventually get out there, we're like, oh fuck, how do I accomplish this? And that's kind of what Alex is struggling with in this show, is she's trying to find a way to make ends meet. She's trying to find a way to provide that life for her daughter that she deserves, because maybe she didn't really have that as a child. And I think overall they dived into that very nicely, especially when we get into how complicated her childhood was. I think all of that was just really well handled overall.
Oh yeah, I think her development is so important to the story and everything, and I feel like anyone that's dealt with emotional abuse or anything that she's went through are really gonna have a connection with her as a character. And she did so well in this role, and I hope she gets more roles like this, or in general, she is incredible and deserves so many different things. Yeah,
I really loved what they did with her writing, but one of the things we definitely have to bring up is the way that they portray the abuse in the show. I was very impressed by, because it's not the kind of abuse that I feel you normally see portrayed in something like this. Normally it's physical, or they got a black eye or something, but like I said, what's going on with Sean is a lot more subtle than that. And it made sense because it kind of tricks you as an audience into thinking that this guy isn't all that bad. This guy, he definitely likes her in that way. He definitely, has good things about him. But what I think the show does really well, again, is get you to understand, why are people dismissing this behavior? Why don't others see it that way? Why don't they see it through that lens? And I think that's something that was really well handled. There's a great scene in the second episode where basically Alex kind of realizes that this is actually emotional abuse and I need to kind of do something about it. And I thought that was really well done, because it really did show just how difficult this is for a lot of people to come to terms with that. Because like I said, you look at Sean and you don't think this is a bad guy. He's got alcohol problems and things like that, but the way that he presents himself, he's a lot more reserved than you would expect for him to be. He has he's very much more gentleman-like than you would expect for him to be. And I really liked that a lot, because it showed that, abusers can come in many forms. It's not always just the angry guy that's smashing things. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, and they portrayed that very well when it came to Sean as a character. And I think also just the way they portray emotional abuse and the way a bunch of not just Alex, but a bunch of women in this show deal with it. I thought all of it was handled very nicely. I don't know if they contacted victims of abuse or things like that, but it very much felt like they did their research very well here, because they really do dive deep into just the lingering effects that this has on you. And I thought that was something that was very well portrayed in this show.
Oh yeah. Emotional abuse is a very serious topic.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to portray because it's emotional.
Oh yeah. But, like, they did, like, wonderfully,
Yeah.
like, dealing with Alex and Sean's relationship and the other women's relationships and stories. Like, they really, like, delved deep, like you said.
Yeah, they did.
It was just, oh my god, it was just so touching and heart-wrenching.
And then contrasting that with her mother, which, oh my god, what a character.
God.
Like I said, I mean, she comes on screen and you just are just so taken aback by her because she's always at a 10 in terms of energy.
Oh, yeah.
Not much seems to really phase her at all. There's a lot of things that she's doing where you're like, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this to yourself. And she continues to engage in it. And as we peel back the layers of that character, you know, we start to realize why she makes these careless decisions, why she has gone down this path, and it really brings this tragedy to this character. I feel like Paula, out of everyone, is probably the most tragic character.
I think so, too.
And I think they did a really good job of slowly portraying that. And again, I'd love to get more into it when it comes to spoilers and things like that. But just at the risk for those who haven't seen it, we're not going to go super into that. But I thought they did a really good job with handling that character, because like I said, you know, at first you'll think this is just a crazy mom, but there's a reason why she's like this. There's a reason why she acts the way that she does, and I thought they did a really good job with that when it comes to Paula, this woman that, you know, doesn't really want to confront some of the issues in her life, kind of just wants to, like, move past it, very, like, go with the flow in that way. You realize why she is that way, and I enjoyed that a lot when it came to the writing of her character.
Yeah, she just, like, she's a great character. She doesn't want to get into, like, all the drama and, like, the trauma and everything. She just wants
Even though she's the one causing it a lot of the time.
For sure. But she just wants to, like, stay optimistic.
Yeah.
And just and then just, like, move on and just talk about all the happy things.
Yeah, just kind of, like, repress a lot of the trauma within her. And I thought overall they did a really great job writing that character. And, you know, as the show goes on, she starts to become a little bit more vocal about that stuff. And I enjoyed what they did. I really enjoyed what they did when it came to that character and how she ended up, you know, how they ended up really revealing what she's been through. I thought was really well done. A character I wasn't really into at first is the Anika Noni Rose, the person that Alex ends up becoming a maid for, who she ends up taking a job. You know, she ends up taking the job cleaning her house. I wasn't super into this character at first. I thought at first she was just very snobby, very much just sort of like the typical sort of rich woman that doesn't really care much about, you know, the caretaker of her house and things like that, isn't really putting much stock into that. But even that character goes through a bit more of an arc than I expected her to, and I really did like that. As the show goes on, you know, we start to realize she herself is going through some significant issues, and it sort of brings her and Alex a lot closer together, and I really enjoy it. I think by the end of the show, she honestly became one of my favorite characters, and I can't believe I'm saying that with the way I felt about her in the beginning of the show, and I really just wasn't a big fan of her at all. They really did a lot more with her than I expected.
I actually think she has one of the best developments in the show.
Yeah.
Like you said, she starts off very snobby and everything, and just
very one note, I'd say.
Yeah, but then we realize there's more. Like, she's actually going through all this trauma and going through a lot of shit, and like you realize that and she's actually like a good person deep down, and you're like, oh, okay, like that surprises us a bit, but she's definitely one of the best characters in this series, and
definitely.
Like, she did so well playing this character, too. Like, such raw emotion.
Yeah, like I said, I think every character here is very well written. Billy Burke plays this very mysterious character who has a lot of shit going on as well, which will, you know, obviously we can't get into right now, but I thought his character was not at all what I expected him to be, and I thought they did a really good job with that. Just overall, I think the character writing is very strong here, and the journey that Alex goes through overall, you know, you're very much compelled by it, because like I said, it seems almost impossible for her to really achieve. There are moments constantly throughout the show where it feels like she's going to get out of this. She's going to be able to do this. Everything's going to go great. And then something comes in the way and just messes everything up. Yeah. And you really feel for that character. This is someone that wants to feel that hope. She wants to provide for her daughter. Like I said, she wants to do it independently, even if it's not possible to fully attain. And I think they did such an amazing job with that. There's one episode in particular, I think it's probably my favorite episode of the show, where it seems like everything is going great, everything is just amazing, she's going to be able to do what she wants, and then it all just comes crashing down. And this is And this is not an isolated incident. This happens many times, like, throughout the show, and, you know, that really plays into not just the tragic aspect, but also just how riveting this show really is. I feel like this show, it's very bingeable in that way, because you want to see her get out of this. You want to see her succeed. You want to see her, you know, find a way to achieve the goals that she wants to in her life, and I thought they did a really strong job with that.
Oh, yeah, this show is, like, very riveting.
Yes.
And it's, like, one of those edge of your seats kind of shows.
Very much, yes. But not in a way that's very subtle, like I would say.
But like it's very bingeable, like you said. And where you just want to keep watching, or like, okay, I need to know what happens next now. Like this one, you should definitely binge this one. I mean, yeah, you can take your time, but this one is just like one of those shows you just have to like watch.
Yeah, I mean,
right away.
You don't have to binge it because it can be very hard to watch at points. But I do think this is a show that you probably are going to find yourself, you know, it's swept up in the characters. I think you'll definitely find yourself pretty addicted to it overall. But
yeah, for sure.
The writing overall is fantastic here. Let's talk about the cinematography in this show, because I think this show is a very interesting look and feel to it with the way that it's filmed. It's very raw in that way, but I also really like the claustrophobia in this show. There's a lot of moments where you're centered squarely on Alex, and you're kind of seeing the way that she is, you know, the way that she is seeing things in that particular moment, the way that she feels kind of trapped and isolated, like you feel that with her, and I think they do a really great job with that throughout the show. Like I said, you feel that tension, you feel that claustrophobia, you feel like you want to break away, and I really love that in terms of the cinematography. I felt like visually, you know, there was a lot of great visual storytelling going on here. There's one shot in particular involving a couch. I think you know what I'm getting at, it was absolutely stunning what they did with that. I thought it was just really great visual storytelling there, what they ended up doing. I really loved the cinematography a lot in the show. A lot of great choices with that.
I think the cinematography was very well done.
Yeah, definitely.
They put a lot of like heart into it, and they put like their heart and soul into this, and it was just like it's very different than we've seen before.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my god, I was in awe.
Yeah, the look and feel of everything, I thought they captured very well here.
Like, they really make you feel, like, all the emotions watching this.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. And I think the way that this show wraps up overall, it's a very satisfying ending. Like, this is definitely one of those shows where, like, I don't want a season 2. I think the way that they wrap it up, it feels very satisfying. It's a great way for things to wrap up narratively.
Oh, yeah.
If they were to get a season 2, I honestly don't think I'd be that excited for it, because I feel like narratively, you know, we went all the places we need to go with this character, and I thought overall it just ended in a very satisfying manner.
Yeah, I don't think this one needs a season 2.
No.
Like, if they were going to do anything else, maybe just do, like, a spin-off series about one of the other characters, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know.
But as, like, as a whole, I don't think this show needs a season 2, because what would they really even do?
That's what I'm saying. I don't really know what they'd focus on. Now, cut to when the show gets renewed for a season 2, and you come back to us sounding like idiots, saying that it's not going to happen. But
I mean, we'll see.
No, in general, I just don't see what else they could really do with the show.
Even if there is a season 2, I'll still watch.
I mean, I'll still watch. I just don't think I'd be that excited for it overall. My only issue with this show, I will say, is with the editing. I think that every so often the show did drag just a little bit for me in the middle section. For the most part, I was very riveted by what was going on. For the most part, I think every scene was really well done, but there were a couple moments and a couple characters overall that I just felt they didn't really do as much with as they could have, and I think that does hold back the show just a little bit for me, but overall, it really doesn't take away from just how effective of a show this really is. Maid is a show that can be very challenging to watch, but it's one that is very moving, it's very riveting, and I think it's one that's going to touch a lot of people for sure. Margaret Qualley and Andie McDowell alone are enough a reason to really watch the show. Nick Robinson and Anika Noni Rose are also really big standouts for sure. The way the show portrays emotional abuse, portraying it with the sensitivity that needs to, but also with the nuance that it really needs to, diving deep into what that really does to people and the lingering effects it has on them, but portraying it again in a very realistic manner, I think it's some of the best I really have ever seen. There's a lot of great visual language in terms of the cinematography and things like that. There's this really cool motif they always do whenever she is in need of money and she wants to buy something and she doesn't have the money for it, and I thought that was a really cool thing what they end up doing there. It's a show that, like I said, it can be very hard to watch at points, but it has really well written characters, some really strong writing, very good directing, really amazing performances. Maid overall is just one of the best shows of the entire year for me. It has an ending that honestly did get me to tear up, but in a much more hopeful way than I think you would expect it to. Overall, I just really love this show a lot, and I am going to give it an A.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I actually disagree with you on the editing. I don't think this show has any flaws, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just watching it, I was very touched, and just everything about it was just so like real, and I just loved it so much. And like the cast, the characters, the cinematography, the editing, the story, everything, just so freaking good. So I definitely gotta give it an A+.
All right, with that, guys, we definitely recommend you watch this show. I think this is the perfect show where, like, if you just need a show to, like, binge and you're kind of, like, out of stuff that you want to watch, I think this is the perfect show to definitely, definitely start up. I think this is probably, I thought it was going to be a very overlooked show, but I'm glad to see that more people are watching it, so that's really great overall.
Yes.
But other than that, guys, of our review of Maid, we have a few more reviews coming before we do wrap things up here. I think we have about, like, 2 more reviews we're going to do together, so definitely look forward to that. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in our next video, and we will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.